Hi everybody, it's Tim Hagen, and I brought you to my profile page, and I wanted to welcome you to 21 Days to Advanced Selling with LinkedIn. Now, I just turned on the recording, so you will get a link probably within about 2 hours of this webinar presentation, as we use the GoToWebinar, and we have to download it and then convert it so you don't have to download it, but can view it from service just with the simple access to a link. Now, let me set some logistics. 1, today I'm going to cover a lot of material. 2, as we go through the material, feel free to ask some questions during the course of the webinar. Put them into the Q&A or the chat, and I will be monitoring those, as every once in a while I'll take a little 60-second break. 3, starting Monday at 9 o'clock Central Time, we will start sending your training reinforcement lessons to your email inbox. Now, as we go through today, I'm going to be teaching it live from LinkedIn. I'm not a big fan of doing things from PowerPoint, especially when it comes to social media. Let me also give you a really interesting perspective. If you look at my profile here and you look at my title, Progress Coaching Creator and Employee Performance Strategist, what we essentially do as a company is we help organizations set up their coaching programs. Now, you must be wondering, well, why do you do LinkedIn training? Here's why. Because we actually practice what we're about to preach. This is not some guy who jumped on the bandwagon of social media to earn an extra buck. But really, we've been doing LinkedIn training and coaching for about the last 5 years. I was one of the first 2 million members, have corresponded with Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn. And obviously, as we all know, it is a very, very, very solid platform. Unlike Facebook, which I'm not against, we're not going to have a lot of people with pictures of people holding up their cat or talking about how they just ate a sandwich. This is really a strong B2B networking business platform. So what we're going to be covering today is a lot of area. Here's what I'd like you to do before we even get started. The first thing that I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write down 4 words before we get started. 1, prospecting. 2, customers. 3, networking. And 4, relationships. When we talk about LinkedIn, I'm going to be going through a variety of things with some tips and techniques that we've used to build more business at our company. And some of these techniques are not technology driven. And I think you're going to learn that even though LinkedIn is really a technology platform, but there's some really cool things we can do as sales professionals to really advance our selling. So I'm going to come back to the home page. And I want to come back there and just share with everybody something that I'm going to be doing during the course of the webinar. Is I'm going to be coming back from the home page to the profile page every so often. Now, when we talk about a profile, what we are going to do is we're going to talk about what should be on your profile and how you can use your profile as a really cool marketing and sales tool. But the one thing I like to do before I do that is to go through the home page. The home page is really where everything is going on as it relates to your network. You're going to get updates, and hopefully you can see this red ball, of the people in your network. This is a gentleman, well actually he just posted it for me, Gary, that I did a program, Why Sales Coaching, with Sales and Marketing magazine, Management Magazine yesterday. Now, you'll always get updates on your home page as to what's going on within your network. So the thing I throw out to people is you hear these updates and see the updates of your people that are going on, you're always going to be able to keep abreast of what people are doing, whether they have new jobs. Now, I could send a little message here to Gary, saying thanks. So I'm going to do that now. And the reason I show this to you is because everything going on in your network basically demonstrates what's going on in your networks, your groups, everyone that you're connected to. And as you can see in this upper right-hand corner, right here, you'll always get an update of the people that you possibly know. And LinkedIn is making it easier for you to connect. So here's why I bring this up. Always go back to your homepage. Always go back to your homepage and see what's going on within your network. Now, let's progress forward to profiles. I am not going to cover profiles and what you should write. What I am going to do is cover a couple high-level things here for you. Let me give you the number one rule I think you should utilize in your profile. One is you come down to the summary, which is right here. My advice to you is do not write about yourself. People who are looking for jobs write about themselves. Your profile should really be your elevator speech. What problem does your company solve? What industry challenge do you successfully address within your marketplace? Now you can see ours. We help companies build continuous training programs that typically save up to 70% off regular types of training, etc., etc. If you, in your company, have everybody have a consistent profile, what most people don't know is LinkedIn profiles are searchable by the Google and the Yahoo index. So my advice is you should always talk and promote your company first, not yourself, because there's a consistency of brand and recognition. So every time someone comes to my profile or to one of my employees, you're going to notice that it's the same description of who we are. And I had an insurance company years ago that actually did some LinkedIn training for us, and one of our first exercises was, let's write our company profile. We had 22 different definitions of who we were and what we did. So the point of this, mentioning of this, is that your profile should speak to the problem and the mission of your company. It should not deviate from employee to employee. One, there's a consistency of branding and marketing, and two, it makes it easier for people to understand who you are. Now, the second thing I want to talk about, and let me go back to my profile. You're going to notice that I have something right here on my status updates. And that is a URL that goes out to either a landing page or some video. So your LinkedIn status, and that it comes out to our blog. So the point being is your status updates is a way for you to communicate to the people that are within your network. Now, we all probably know that. I realize that. But the reason I'm setting this up is that's a way for you to educate your marketplace. Now, let me also throw out something that I do. Very often at this status update, and you can also do it on your homepage right here, you can also promote what your customers and your business partners are doing as well. So if they're having an event or if they've won an award, it's a great place to share, because what you're really doing is pushing out their brand and their recognition. And the reason that that's valuable, everybody, is because it doesn't come off self-serving. And let's be honest, a lot of people outside the sales world view us as sales professionals as being just that way. So start to think about LinkedIn as that tool where you can give and not just get. So when you have your links out here, I believe LinkedIn is one of the few platforms that allows us to successfully bring marketing and sales together. So as you look at some of the updates that are being done, let me go back to my profile, and you look at this link, what this essentially does is drives you out to a landing page that we have, or to a blog where I'm educating. One of the most downloaded items that you can put on your status or on your home page, which essentially achieves the same thing, white papers, free PDFs, free downloads of webinars. If your company is doing something with education, something that talks about the industry where you have a value, and you put this, and you have everybody in your sales team putting this on their LinkedIn updates, you're starting to do what? Warm up the prospecting, the first term I gave you. You're starting to warm up the prospecting. Now, let me also then go to our connections. And let me just share with you, and I hope the network statistics works. I will tell you every once in a while, every once in a while LinkedIn has so much traffic that they have these outages. Let me come back to connections. And you're going to see in my network, I've got about 1,000 people. Let me give you a really strong rule. Only have people on your first level of connection that you know really, really well. And I've actually gone through a process of getting rid of some people I don't remember and or that I don't communicate with for a lengthy period of time. So on your network, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want those people who are your first level connections. And I'm just going to bring up one slide here, and I have this as a backup just in case. Let me expand this. And you're going to be able to notice, that at this point there was 193 connections, and you can see 2 degrees away. So anytime someone has this number right here, that means somebody in your network knows that person. So what's become very popular, and I'm going to show you an automated way to handle this later on, but when we talk about people who are 2 degrees away, we know that there are people in our network that knows that person. I'm just going to take the PowerPoint away. So as we look at all these people, and here's a gal that I've done some business with, landscaping firm here in Wisconsin. So let's say I want to go to Mara's profile. I can obviously come down and see some of Mara's connections. Now you see that she and I share some connections. And I know Mike Jones, who used to work at one of my client sites, who's now at David Frank, Michael Bauman, who's their IT manager, who actually set up our LinkedIn training there, and Michael Gehagen, who I've known for years, that sells advertising. But you also see she has 83 connections. So let's say for whatever reason, I want to know who Gary Hoffman is. And let's say Gary's in my target demographic, and I really want to go sell to Gary or be introduced to Gary. I can get introduced through a connection. And what that does is it steps you through the process. So what it does, I can now send a request. I can put on the subject line, and I can ask Mara to make an introduction to Gary. So one of the first things I throw out to people in your network is, 1, have people that you know intimately well in your first level connection. If I did not know Mara, I'm not going to be comfortable asking for her to make an introduction. Second thing, let me make another comment to you. Instead of letting the software do it, ask Mara and say, Mara, I just was on your profile and I noticed that you have Scott that I'd like to be introduced to. Would you be comfortable if I gave Scott a call, or would you be okay calling Scott, letting him know that I would be giving him a call? And I promise I won't be too aggressive. I'll be polite, respectful, etc. I probably make 2 of those calls a week. Invariably, everybody, I always get someone on the other end of the phone. So why people today, and making assumptions of industries, why anybody today would be making cold calls is beyond me. Now, we're talking about your network. Let's come back to that term profile. Now, here's a guy, Dan Stein, who used to work for the Milwaukee Brewers. And he's now out in Oakland working for the Oakland Raiders. And I worked with Dan years ago, and you'll notice down here, he worked for the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, Let's say I've got somebody in my network that I think would really be valuable for us to talk to. And we want to talk to somebody, or I want to introduce Stan to somebody. Now, one of the connections we just got, thanks, Stan, you'll always have the question that Stan had, is there a visual difference from a first level and other connections? Yes. Anytime you come to someone's profile, you'll have a number behind them. So let me show you another example. It's a great question. Let me come back to the home page. And here's some people you may know. Now, I don't know Stephen, but you'll know when I go to his profile. See number 2 up here next to his name? That means somebody in my network, which you can see right down here. And I know all of these people very well. I've known John Harris for years. Harry Kohal works down the street from me. Paul Stillmake owns a company, 7 Summits. If I wanted to be introduced to Steve, I know I've got some first level connections who know that person intimately well. So thanks for the question. I appreciate it. Now, I'll just stay on Stephen's profile. Let's say somebody in my network would really benefit by knowing Stephen. Or if I want to help Stephen out, and this is something when we talk about relationship building and networking, very often when we think about networking in our world, what do we think about? We think about ourselves. What leads did I get? Think about LinkedIn as a platform that allows you to give and spark conversation about you. And I'll show you some really cool techniques. The first thing is, you'll notice something down here at the bottom of the profile. Share, PDF, print, or flag. I'm going to cover 3 of those. Let's say I want to share Stephen's profile. I'm going to bring up some people. Let's say I want to send this to Andy Gumina, who's a friend of mine at Johnson Controls. And I might say in this email, Andy, give Stephen a call. He's a good guy. I just met with this company. I think your firm would really benefit. Let him know that I said to give you a call. Now, if I'm prospecting or trying to build a relationship with Stephen, from a relationship, going back to the 4 terms that I asked you to write down, prospecting, customers, networking, and relationships, what I've really done is what? I've addressed the relationship. I have facilitated some networking with no self-serving interest whatsoever. Now, as a sales professional, I've completely differentiated myself. And what I've also done is I've got 2 people now talking about me, hopefully in a very positive tone. So let's come back. Now, let's say, I'm going to go back to Dan. Now, let's say there's something, and years ago I worked with Dan. Now, here's something that's very powerful that most people don't do. Let's say I want to recommend Dan. And let's say I worked with him at the same company. And for whatever reason, it's not letting me bring the drop downs. Well, anyways, basically I can write in a nice recommendation to Dan. I'm not going to do it now for the sake of time. I can talk about our relationship, and I do not know why it's not. This must be something with Citrix. But anyways, what I can do is do a recommendation. And then I send that for Dan's approval. Now, guess what happens? Dan has how many connections? 306 connections. When he approves my recommendation, everybody, guess what happens? People in his network get notified, Tim Hagen just recommended Dan Stein. Guess what happens? Out of curiosity, they click on my name and they come back to my profile. So when they come back to my profile, am I marketing or educating on something that I want prospects to be interested in? Absolutely. When was the last time you got a recommendation, or that you did 2 or 3 recommendations a week? And what happens is those recommendations tap into the people you're recommending's networks. Number 2, do a 2 to 3 paragraph recommendation. Don't just write, geez, Ron's a really nice guy. I worked with him for 2 years. I would recommend Ron. Write about him specifically, deeply, authentically, thoughtfully. And what that does, it says a lot about you that you took that time. Now, I'm not saying to write a novel for the sake of being long-winded. What I'm saying is do it to the point that you're being honest in your recommendation, but you're also going to do what? Drive traffic back to your profile, which should be educating people on what your company or what you do is in terms of selling. And I will tell you, I've had more people come back to me and say, you know, Tim, when you first talked about that recommendation feature, I thought it was so dumb and I didn't do it. And then I got the lesson, the reinforcement lesson. I thought, okay, I'll do it. And I actually had a customer call me and say, you know, I just want to tell you how much I appreciate you doing that. So again, we've been on here for about 20 minutes right now. And I want you to think about your profile. Does it speak to the problems in the services your company provides and the industry challenges it solves? On your status updates, are you educating people or giving something away like a free white paper or a link, something like that? Your network, first level connections. Don't connect with people you don't know. Respectfully decline it because you always want to be able to go back to your network. It's an invaluable asset. All of these people down here that are under my network, I know fairly well. Now, when you go to your connections, and I hope this works right now because they're having some issues, you'll notice something, and hopefully this pops up. You'll notice something that there's the A's, and it goes in order alphabetically. I'm at the D's. Here's a little trick. What I try to do is I call this my A to Z approach. Every week, I'll choose 2 people in my A's, and I'll try to forward some information, a LinkedIn profile, or just say hi to them. Or I'll do a recommendation. So I want you to think about your network as this entity that you've got to constantly stay in front of. Constantly have to fuel and let people know you're out there. A great way of doing that is recommendations. The other way, now here's Mike Dari, who works at a leasing company, who was a client of ours for about a year. Now let's say Mike is looking to get into some company, and I want to connect, let's say Kelly Smith to Mike for whatever reason, and Kelly works out at Citrix in California, who I've done a lot of work with. I can not only share her profile, but you can also down here, everybody, especially for in-person meetings, print out a PDF to a customer or a prospect and say, Mike, you know what? I was going over your profile and I'm looking at some of the companies that you typically do business with. And here's somebody I thought would really benefit from a phone call. Feel free to use my name with Kelly. What do you think Mike's going to do? He's absolutely going to do what? He's going to start to think about what? How do I reciprocate? So again, let's go back to our 4 terms: prospecting, customers, networking, and relationships. Not only have I helped Kelly if I give a good referral, I've helped Mike because I've greased the skids to make it easy for him, but I've also built up my network and my value in my network, which does what? Gets people to think about reciprocating. I'm hoping that makes sense to everybody, and the whole key is to give and then get. Now, let me come back to the home page. There's something going on here that I'll share with you is very powerful. So we've got the home page we've covered, which you're going to see everything going on in your network. You've got your profile, which should speak to the industry challenges your company addresses. You should not be writing about yourself a lot. And you'll notice I've been fortunate enough to have a lot of recommendations. By the way, I've never, ever asked for a recommendation. I don't agree with it, but over time, when you recommend other people, they genuinely reciprocate. So we've covered the home page, the profile page, a little bit of contacts. Let me take you to probably the fastest growing part of LinkedIn, and that is company pages. So I'm following about 60 companies. There's a little bit of a hidden agenda here, and let me just share with you something I just did for a company. It's a company out in Wisconsin that we work with called InPro. And one of the things that they did is a recruiting video that I thought was just fantastic. So I'm going to take you to their company page. Now, not only do I follow them, okay, so you can see it says I'm following them, I can share this company page and recommend them on what? My status page. And guess what? I'm connected to about 100 employees. So when I share that, I'm going to come back to my home page and look at what's right here. And guess what everyone's thinking out at that company right now? What a nice guy Tim Hagen is. Now, do I do that to be fake? No. They are a great company. They have treated me like family. They're fantastic. But that's a really cool way to do what? Promote the brand of your customers. So let me come back to companies. And everybody, just so you know, if you hear me take a break every once in a while, I've got a really nasty cold, and I'm just trying to get over it and pace myself. As you can hear, my voice is getting a little bit scratchy. Let me take you back. Oops. And let's go back to InPro. What I want you to do with your customers, excuse me, you're going to see that I'm connected to a lot of people here, much like the earlier question. You see the first here, meaning they're on my first level connection. And InPro did something really cool here. They incorporated, you can bring your company page to live, or bring it, make it more lively, excuse me. And you'll notice underneath I put Tim Hagen, great company. So again, somebody at that company is going to see that I wrote that. Now, what I should have said is great company. I would recommend people looking for a job, because it was really a recruitment video. But look at what you can now do on your company page. You can bring up different products. And you see they don't have a lot of recommendations. Now, if I was their customer, or if I was someone, I don't use their products, you see my point, there's an opportunity there, which I'll show you with a different company page here in a second. But again, go to your customers, go to your prospects' company pages. You're going to see people. You're going to see that they have 669 followers. Here's the other cool thing. You see people who are following that page. So you're going to learn a lot. Now again, we're 27 minutes past the hour. We've covered a lot of material already. But company pages is a great way to promote your customers, your prospects, your business partners, and to promote them. Let me see. We just got a question come in. Oh, this is a great question. Oh, Amy, I love you. I am a small business owner. Is having a company page more for larger companies? No. It is for everybody. And I would encourage you to think that way, because you know what? Let me take you to Sales Progress. Now, we just launched ours about 6 months ago and have not done a good job of promoting it. But I can also share it my company page to drive traffic back. But you can also bring up your products and services, and look what we can do. And Amy, it's a great question. You can also have something slide here. These are links that actually take people out to our events. So you're about to go to an event page that we utilize with another service that gives you some things that we have coming up. I can also take you, it also gives you page statistics. So it'll show you how often people are coming to that company page. But it is a great place to see and educate people when they come to your company. Does that make sense? And you notice I can even incorporate a YouTube video right here. So I actually have a YouTube video running right from my company page. And those are the things that we need to continue to think about as we're educating people. So you not only have a company page, but you can also promote your customers and products or prospects company pages. And hopefully that made sense. But it is powerful, and this, they say, is the fastest growing part of LinkedIn right now, are company pages. Let me take you through one more, and I will show you why I think this is valuable. And I'm going to take you to Citrix Online. And there's a little bit, oops, that didn't go, sorry. There's a little bit of a hidden agenda here, but bear with me. Now you're going to notice they have updates, they have jobs, et cetera, updates on the companies. Let me take you to the products page. Now you're going to notice something. I use GoToTraining. And if you notice, there's my photo. So guess what? I've had people who have looked at the 8 recommendations that I've written. Best training product I have ever used by far, and great people to work with too. What do you think Citrix thinks about me right now? And guess what? And this is really used more for my business. I do 4 webinars every year that gives me about 1,000 prospects. They were so appreciative of this that I did a recommendation. Now, number 2, the other thing that it does is somebody's going to wonder, oh, who's Tim Hagen? He likes this product called GoToTraining, excuse me there. And guess what this does? Dives you right back to your what? Profile page. That does what? I'm now promoting the Impro Corporation. So hopefully you're seeing there's a lot of interdependencies. So your profile should be singing and educating. You should be forwarding other people's profiles, doing recommendations to drive people back to your profile. You should be giving people not only printouts, but forwarding other people's profiles and connecting people together. Because you know what's going to happen? They're going to remember you're the one who connected them. Now, we've talked about company pages. An invaluable tool to not only educate yourself in the company, to see who else knows them. You can recommend the company and their products, which people who not only visit that page as well as the company will see you're the one who recommended their product, much like I did for GoToTraining and Citrix. So when I call up Kelly Smith, who I've done a lot of work with, and say, Kelly, I'd love to do another webinar with you. And if I'm competing with another person who did not take the time to do that, guess what happens? Guess who wins? I do. So the role of selling today, I really think is changing, and I think where social media really provides a unique platform is to do some of the things that we're talking about. Now, I'm going to cover one more thing before one of the best areas that I could do, and that is groups. One of the things that I would encourage you to do, and I'm going to take you to one of my favorite groups by a friend of mine, Lee Sells, Sales and Management Executives. If you're in sales leadership, I would encourage you to go to this group. So I can share this group, which I've done. I can share it on LinkedIn. I can post it to my updates, which just replaced Impro on my updates. I can see what other members are in the group, which is a great forum to prospect. Now I'm a member of this group. And going back to the earlier question, you can see all the members with the number 1s behind them. That means I'm connected to them. But let me push out a little bit farther. Now you can see I've got some people here with number 2s behind them, meaning somebody in my network knows them. But let's come back to the group, and probably one of the most powerful things you can do, engage in discussions. One of the things that I do is I will lead a discussion group, but I will use a movie or a YouTube or a blog as a way to facilitate the conversation. And I just started this one yesterday. And you can see I've already got a comment. Now you'll notice something here in a group. Oops. I acknowledge Frank up here. I said, thanks, Frank. Now this seems dumb, right? But guess what happened? Look at the top of the group. If the group allows you to do this, I can run a YouTube right from the group. Why do sales managers fail? And it's a thing on sales managers and sales coaching. I'm not going to play it now for you. But the point being, look at the power of that. I'm not only educating in the group, and Lee gives me permission to do this, but you can also, within your group, make comments about other people and their feedback. Now, I just put thanks, Frank. What I should do is say, and I've done this in a lot of groups, Frank, I really appreciate your insight. I thought it was a valuable lesson. I had never thought of it from that perspective. Guess what's going to happen? Frank, out of curiosity, is going to click on this guy named Tim Hagen, whether I started the discussion or not, and he's going to come back to what? My profile. I'm hoping that this makes sense. We're 35 minutes past the hour. We've covered profiles, your network, giving and then getting, home pages, company pages, and now groups. You can join up to 50 different groups. And in your groups, let me come back, you're going to notice there's going to be some rules. And so what you have to do is follow the guidelines. But one of the best things you can also do is launch a poll. If I want to launch a poll, I can ask a question, and that'll be promoted throughout the whole group. So the reason I love this topic, advanced selling with LinkedIn, I'm going to throw out a real challenge to all of you. What do most of us do as salespeople? I don't have time. But if you take the time, you will differentiate yourself. If you start a discussion or if you start a poll, people will engage with you. And it doesn't mean, is anybody in need of my services or products? Talk about a challenge facing your industry that the group would find valuable. That's thought leadership. This platform allows us to do that as sales professionals. Now you notice that there's a promotions tab. My advice is when you start something, and I'm going to show you a blogging feature here in a second, when I click on the promotions tab, here is where people promote. Make sure you follow the rules, that you don't put promotions in discussions or you could be kicked out of the group. Let me show you an example of that very quickly. I'm going to show you something that is probably not dedicated towards you as a sales professional, but bear with me. You'll notice I have a blog here. And we have a person who blogs for us full time. But you notice you're on my profile, or on my homepage. Let's go back to Penny, who's one of my employees. And you're going to notice on her profile, oops, she's supposed to have the blog on her profile. Oh, there she goes. Sorry, I was going too fast. You'll notice she has the same blog. Here's the cool thing, everybody. If you have one person blog and you connect that WordPress blog, which you can do through LinkedIn to everyone's LinkedIn profile, you as a salesperson don't even have to do it. Every time somebody blogs at your company in that WordPress, your LinkedIn profile gets updated automatically. And then when people come back to your LinkedIn profile for the first time, it'll be shaded in yellow to let them know that's where you made your recent updates. Extremely powerful. But let's say I want to take this blog entry and I want to promote it. And I want to promote it through LinkedIn. Now I can promote this on my updates page. But when you promote to groups, be careful. If I were to send this, I'm not going to do this now. If I were sending it to sales management executives, that would go in the discussion. So do the discussions from within the groups. Don't do it through these type of social media widgets. Now you also notice I can send this out via Twitter. So I'm going to click share. I'm going to come back to the home page and you'll see a notice. Coaching to what motivates your employees. And what that does is it sends people right back to our blog. Get the idea? And you'll notice I have a white paper download built into my blog. These are the advanced selling things that I share with all of you as a tiny 6-7 person company that we are. We get calls from companies like Federal Express, Coca-Cola, just got a call from Dell Computer, doing some of the things that I'm talking about right now. So we have covered a lot. Let me share with you what I believe is probably will speak to all of us as sales professionals, and I'll take a deep breath here and slow down, which I don't do very well. Let's go to the advanced search feature, which is right up here in the upper right corner, even from the home page. Okay? Now, this is a lot, and they've been updating it. Let's say I want to go for a title of training manager, and I want to look for employees who currently have that title, not past employees. And I don't know why it's not letting me do the down arrows. It must be something to do with the webinar. There we go. I don't know how I even got it to change. And let's say I want to do this within 50 miles of my office in Cedarburg, Wisconsin. But I really want to look for industries in manufacturing. I'm looking for training managers in manufacturing. I can look at industries. Oops. Might be under industrial. Well, let me just look at industrial automation for whatever reason. Let me do a search. And it brought up 3 results. Okay. Now you notice it brought up some results. And you notice I share a group with Karma. I can look up Jody. Now she's 3 levels of connections away, meaning I don't have anyone in my network who knows them. So let me go back. And I'm going to go back and I hit reset up in the upper right. Let me go back to the advanced search. Sorry. And let's say I'm going to look at training manager again. I'm going to look at current. And let's say I'm going to look for people within 25 miles of where I live, but I'm not going to segment it by an industry. It'll bring up a list of 210 results, and it will typically list in order of relationship. You notice it starts with Aaron, number 1 at Sherwin-Williams, down to Sherry, who's a training manager at MRA. Here's someone who's at Marquette University in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, etc. You get the idea. Now, here's the really cool thing. Let's say that search is giving us what we want, and we want to start to look at those people. And let's say Sherry we want to connect with. What LinkedIn just came out with right here in this column is if you're connected by level 1, you can send that person a message. If it's level 2 away, would you like to connect with Sherry? Now, I don't know Sherry, but let's see who does. I want to connect with her. I can connect with her directly, which I have a membership, which I'm not going to cover, that allows me to do that. So it allows you to connect with some of these people. And by connecting with people, you can see they're in your target demographic. And you can actually start to connect with people based on searches that you do. Now, this all seems fine and easy to do. Let me throw you back to the advanced search feature. You up here, I want to note this, from this dividing line up is very basic criteria. But you can also search by industry, by relationship you have, language if you do some international business. Here's one that they just came out with a little while ago. Company size. Now typically we look at 200 to 500. Now if you're 200 or more, you're going to want to check all those boxes. People who are interested in hiring managers, entrepreneurs, consultants, contractors, the type of company size they are, as well as what is their decision-making status inside that organization. That is a lot of invaluable information. Here's where it gets better. Let me do training manager again. And I'm going to try to get this. I don't know why the down arrow is not working, but there we go. And here I'm looking for people who are within, let's say, 50 miles of Cedarburg, Wisconsin. Now let's say this is a target demographic. I always want to find out who's meeting that criteria. Right here, I can save this search, and this is what's really cool. Now I see a question just came in. Let me answer that real quick. No, Stan, that's a great question. And you notice I didn't suggest that. I'm saying I could have. Stan asked a great question. You said not to connect unless you know them well. You wanted to connect to Sherry. That's if I wanted to connect to Sherry. What I would look for is I would actually go to Sherry and see if there's someone in her network that you feel would make a viable introduction. I would just not haphazardly ask Sherry to connect with me because she came up on a list. If you notice that she's a number 2 connection, meaning somebody in her network or somebody in my network knows her. So that's what I would do. But I'm happy you asked that distinguish. I'm not changing the approach. But thank you for clarifying that, because some other people may have had that same impression. So when you do the advanced searches, it's really to find out who these people are. Now, so thank you for doing that. Now, let's say I want to save this search, which is right here where my cursor is. Now I'm going to get an error here, and I'll tell you why. Oh, no, I didn't. Interesting. This is my final saved search. When you have a free account, you get 3 saved searches. When you get a paid account, and I don't know all the features, I can send you a screenshot of it. I can, every time somebody meets the criteria with the title of training manager within 50 miles of where I work by certain criteria, and I certainly kept it very general, I can tell the system, being LinkedIn, when to give me an update. So every week I will get an update of the people who meet that criteria. So here are my saved searches. Here's the one I just created. So every time someone meets this criteria, I will get an email alert of the people who now meet that criteria. So here's anyone with Inside Sales Manager within 75 miles of a zip code. And I click View. Those are the people that now meet that criteria. And going back to Stan, let's say I don't know them. I may want to build them into my database. I may want to make a cold call. Or more importantly, I may see who that person is, or how I go about, who else do I know at Cooper Lighting? How do I penetrate that account and get to a Julie or a Lori? But the Save Searches, everybody, does something really cool. You have an email that's tied to your LinkedIn account. So every time somebody meets the criteria of my saved searches, of which I have 7, right here, what happens is I get an email alert notifying me of new people that meet that criteria, which could now have that title of just got hired, or reasons why they just got hired, they got promoted, their job title changed. So it's a really cool way to keep abreast of the target demographics, going back to our words, of prospecting. So when I get some of these, and let me go to Training Director, brings up one person, and this goes back to Stan, your question, which I think is a great one. Julie Crowley, there's going to be a guy here by the name of Nick, I guarantee you. Nick Neitzel, right down here. So here's a longtime friend of mine that I know right here, Derek, who's the general manager of this company, and Nick Neitzel, who's been a longtime friend of mine. I guarantee you, if this was a target demographic that I'd want to go after, which it isn't for a health club, but let's say it was, I could simply call Nick, or I could go through the software, and I could get introduced through a connection. And the software does all of it for you. But that's what's really cool about advanced searches, is it really allows you to do what? To really automate the delivery of prospects and people that match specific criteria that you want to stay in contact with or stay abreast of. And that really is something that when I go out and I talk to salespeople, they're not leveraging this as much as what they could be. Now I'll give you another little hidden secret, and I haven't done this, and you'll notice on my advanced searches, they're not there, but I have done this. Let's say you have a paid account, which again, I think the difference is 3 for a free account, 7 for paid. The next one's like 15, I think. And they've changed it through the years. But what you could do, which is really cool, do a save search for one of your customers. Look for them, and every time somebody matches that criteria, and let's say my friend Ron is looking for Mary Butler, and this is in his target demographic, and I did a search for Ron's company. Guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go share that with him. And that's what will trigger you to stay in front of your network, to give to your network, to build relationships, to remind you of some of the core networking things that you need to do, but also allow you to prospect and help your customers out, who will do what? Be more willing to give you a referral. So let me come back to advanced search again. Excuse me. And I'm going to come back to my saved searches. You'll notice you can have up to 7, and you can do these for other people, or you can do them for yourself. And it is a really, really powerful thing to do. Now, I'm also going to take you back to the home page. Now, you'll notice something that occurred here, and that is this. Look at our home page. Remember I did the coaching to what motivates you 12 minutes ago it shows? Look at how many updates are happening from my network. Gershwin, who's the Selling Power magazine. Jonathan Crawford runs an email newsletter. Rob Mellon, who's a financial executive in Milwaukee. Nancy, who I've known through a lot of different training and entrepreneurial escapades through the years. I know these people, so I could send a message. I could comment on one of their promotions or what have you. There's a lot going on in your network, so don't just log in and turn a blind eye. And one of the things that I throw out to people, and I'm going to take you back to a suggestion I would make to you, and that is this. And just give me a second here. Set up a schedule. Update your profile weekly. Schedule an Outlook or whatever you're using as a reminder tool. Send 1 or 2 recommendations a week. Now, if your profile has something like a webinar or a free white paper, something that's going on in your company that educates, you're going to start to get people engaging with that, which does what? Create some lead generation. Do searches for others. It doesn't have to be an automated search, but maybe once a week do a search for one of your customers or people you're trying to do business with. And recently I went into a small company after doing a phone call with the company, and I brought in a couple profiles of people. And I said, hey, I was thinking about your target demographic based on our conversation. You know, whether we do business or not, here's a couple people I think you ought to call and use my name. And let me see what our question is. Yeah, Amy, it's a great question. The question is how much are you spending on this daily and weekly? Let me just share this with you. Let me come back, and I appreciate your question. I'm going to come back to LinkedIn. What I typically do is I log in the morning before I start my business day, and I see what's going on in my network at the home page. Number 2, we have a person who blogs for us full time. This is constantly educating my network. I spend no time doing that. That's our full-time, we have a social media person who does that. And she works with me on blogging in our topics, but that is always letting my network know of what I'm doing with blogging, even though I'm not the one doing it. Number 3, I will probably spend on advanced searches maybe about 30 minutes a week, and I'll pick and choose the people I want to engage with, and much like Stan's earlier point, who do I want to get connected with that's worthwhile and that I have a really good connection with. I probably spend hour to 2 hours a week on it, but I'll share this with you. I think I just had a client about a year, and they fought us on LinkedIn. They said, no, our industry is different. We don't need LinkedIn for prospecting. And one of the gentlemen really, really took to LinkedIn, and he started to do a recommendation literally once every 2 days. And then he would update his status page, and he would do advanced search features. He ended up getting more referrals and calling up people and getting them on the phone and getting introductions that he ended up building up such a powerful network that he had to really stop the traditional prospecting that he had. There's an upfront investment time-wise, but limit it to 30 minutes a day. I would also encourage you as a sales leader, don't have everyone on LinkedIn for 2 hours a day. So I can hear at least the basis, Amy, of your question, but I would share with you that I think it's important that you structure time to do this. Because when you look at a WordPress blog, and you take something like this, and if you have someone blogging for your company, connect everyone's profile to it, especially the salespeople. They don't even have to do anything. The other thing you can do is, and let me come back to my profile, you can connect what we call SlideShare, which are PowerPoints. I'm probably going too fast again. Here we go. And here's our SlideShare. So if someone wants to come to my profile and see something on 4 steps to sales training success, it'll take us out to our SlideShare presentations, which, by the way, SlideShare was just bought by LinkedIn, that allows you with just screens, and now they've added audio, you can actually run PowerPoint from your LinkedIn profile. So again, I think, Amy, you asked a great question. There's some things you can automate by tying your WordPress blog, SlideShare, the company's YouTube channel, the company's Twitter feed. All of that stuff allows you to promote your company. And here's one. Let me take you through something real quick, because I think it's actually, I could have done it right here. Let me go back. Let's say I want to promote this, this page. And let's say I want to tweet about it. My LinkedIn profile is connected to our company Twitter feed. And watch what happens. Check out, and I just tweeted it. So going back to Amy's question, what you can do, everybody, is connect everybody's profile to your SlideShare, to your company YouTube channel if you have one, your WordPress blog, your SlideShare PowerPoint presentations, or your company Twitter feed. So if you don't want salespeople spending a lot of time on this and they're using it for networking and some of the things that we talked about, that's fine. But there's a really cool thing that can accelerate the marketing of that as well. So last thing that I want to show very quickly, and you'll notice people that you may know. And actually, that's not what I wanted to do. I apologize. I always get one question that I always like to cover. 8 people have viewed my profile in the last 3 days, and I'm wondering who those people are. Now, this is a gal, Sherry, that just came on yesterday, 2 days ago, and watched me on a webinar. And here's a gal, I don't know Lori, but you'll notice a difference in messaging. She came to my profile. I do not know her. I could ask to connect to her, but much to Stan's earlier point, probably don't want to do that because I don't really know her. Now I know Lloyd very well, and I know Scott well, where we're talking about doing some coaching assessments. So I can send them a message, and I could say, hi, Lloyd, I see you're on my profile. I'll see you next Wednesday at our networking event at the Milwaukee Athletic Club. So again, LinkedIn's making it really easy for you to continue to see not only who's looking for at your profile, but giving you some really simple and quick and effective ways to communicate with people. So I know I've covered a lot. Let's take a step back. Profiles. Oops. Your homepage. Spend some time on your homepage. Profiles. Make sure you're communicating some things of value to for your company. Let me come back to that question, Scott, offline if I could. That's a great question. Your network. Do some recommendations. And I go back to Amy's question because I think it's a great one. You know, how much time? But you know what? Think about your competition not doing a recommendation, but you did a recommendation for a customer or a prospect. Who just gained the edge? So if you make the time, it really helps from a selling perspective. Company pages. Get a company page or promote somebody's company page or comment on their company page, because guess what? Especially for major companies who have a lot of traffic and followers, you bring more attention to you in driving people back to your profile. Advanced searches, an invaluable tool. Number 3, groups. Engage with groups. Get involved in a discussion or two a week. By sheer nature, what are people going to do? they're going to come back. And I'm going to go back to something Amy asked because I think it's a good point. If you're limited time-wise, these are things that salespeople, quite frankly, for the most part, should be doing outside of the traditional selling hours. Because the great thing about social media, like discussion groups and company pages and advanced searches, these are all things that can be done off hours. You don't have to do them between 8 and 5 to be an attentive participant. And then last, think about giving back. Take someone's profile, forward it, print it out, connect some people, make suggestions for people to connect. And in that way, that will help differentiate you as a salesperson. This is the only way we really garner new business. Now, we do free webinars and things like that and white papers, but about 77 to 78% of our web traffic, because we are true B2B, comes from LinkedIn, and we use a service called HubSpot to track that. Now, I'm going to come back to one of the questions that was just asked. Does anybody else have any other questions? And Scott, that has changed, and I'll send you an email offline. But are there any other questions that you can have before we do a quick summary? And again, I'm going to convert this recording and hopefully get it out today or in the next hour or two to get it to you. So if you have any questions, after you view the webinar, please let me know. Okay, good. I don't see any other questions. What I'd like to ask you is, did this hit home? I hope I got your juices flowing of how to use LinkedIn differently than just connecting with people. This is the thing that I use. All the stuff that I talked about is in theory. This is how I build my business. And we're not hurting for business at all. We're very fortunate. We have great clients. But LinkedIn is a great tool to market and communicate and add value and build relationships. But if you're only on LinkedIn for one reason, and that's to get leads, you're going to struggle because everybody is. But if you give, you will get. So what I'd like from everybody now in the chat or the Q&A, could you just send me a quick message? Did this hit home and help you? And did it give you a couple ideas? And as you do that, let me give you a summary. Next Monday, you're going to start getting the reinforcement lessons at 9 o'clock Central Time. You're going to have a link to a personalized workbook. You do not need a login or a password. When you go in there, you'll be able to log your answers and save some of your work. Now, some of the lessons will have videos and YouTubes and links to videos of how to use some of the features we've talked about, as well as some other things, as well as prompting you to take some actions like writing recommendations. And over 21 days, if you do those things, some of these things, again, going back to Amy's question, will slowly become a habit. Yeah, and a couple of you just put in, it's a lot of material. It is a lot of material. That's why I tell people, don't worry about taking notes. Let me do the recording. Let me share with you what we can do. The lessons are designed to do just that. There is a lot of material. And I hope I have not overwhelmed you, but I do have a tendency to do that because, as we all know with these webinars, a lot of speakers start mentioning other products for $49.95. I did not want to do that. So it's a different way of thinking. It is, and it's a different way of doing some things, but it gets you to a point of differentiating yourself. And more times than not, and even before I got on this webinar today, I had someone contact me from a referral source who I did a favor for. I actually found her someone on LinkedIn and forwarded a profile and say, here's a guy who can help you. Use my name. He's a good guy. I've known him for years. And it was a relationship changer. When something came up, she recommended me, and a guy called me. Now, does that happen every day? No. So thank you, everybody. I hope you have a great weekend. I know it was a lot of material. I appreciate it. If you haven't put in your thoughts, please do so. I really want to make sure that this hit home with you. And if there aren't any other questions, have a great weekend. And the lessons will start on Monday. Thanks, everybody.